meeting of the Old Saybrook Water Pollution Control Authority on Monday, September 14th in Town Hall. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Elsa Payne, Chairman.
Present.
Ian Featherstone, Vice Chairman. George Equus, Secretary, Present. Chuck Worley.
Present.
John F. Claffey Jr.
Present.
Jason Becker.
Present.
Peter Stump.
Present.
And Robert Singer, alternate.
Present.
Roll call taken, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Sanger, you will be seated for the absent members. Thank you. All right, can we all please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th meeting?
So made.
And I shall second that.
Okay. Is there any comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, do any member want to wish to address the board?
I have one thing, point of interest, and it's, to me, it's interesting because one of our three towns was involved in this project to run. The headline has to do with the town, this is pertaining to Clinton. The town votes to approve WPCA study funds. They had $44,000 set out for a month to review this. They had a meeting, 63 residents attended the meeting, and a motion was passed with a 57-person majority to test in which direction they're going to go in. One of the residents came out, I'm not going to read the whole menu. She reminded the voters that a solution needs to be reached regardless of the cost. We can't live in a town that fails to correct a wastewater pollution problem. And it goes on like this, and they are going ahead. The WPCA continues to report, the department continues to hold public involvement meetings to keep Clinton residents in the loop. And I'll just close out by saying this, the WPCA will continue to hold regular meetings every second and fourth Tuesday of the month in the Rose Room of Town Hall. I just want to mention one other thing, maybe you're familiar with this. They pertain to the Long Hill neighborhood, portions of the coastal area called Meadow Road, a portion of Stanton Road, and a few blocks of Route 1 in the downtown center. It's a critical area. All right, thank you.
Anyone else care to comment? Okay, you look like you're ready to. Okay, we'll move on to staff reports, starting with financial.
Okay, first up is the operating budget report for August. You have it in your packet, and I sent it out earlier.
Okay, may I have a motion to accept this operating report?
I'll make a motion to accept the August 2015 operating budget report.
Second.
Okay. Any items for discussion?
It's early, so there's not a lot.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
The second item is, again, just for your files, and it is a summary of the requisitions through the end of July.
Okay, thank you.
Now-
Does anyone have questions on this report?
I do have one.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that this is in line with the anticipated distributions. anticipated requisition?
To date, yes. We haven't quite gotten far enough into it. You'll get another piece of paper spreadsheet when there's, I've kind of been waiting to have Maple Avenue, Meadowood 1 and 2 completed before I started in on that particular spreadsheet. Because most of, most of this is soft costs. And so the gross total, there's a gross total line item in the budget, and this is like one,
Right.
you know.
Well, and here's, let me elaborate on my question, if you will, and Steve, this may be more appropriate for you. We anticipated having the engineer's report done at the end of July. For good reason, we're still waiting for that. That's not a complaint at all, I don't mean. But I don't want us to get into get us behind the 8 ball, if you will, that we are trying to catch up with work that we have to complete this fiscal cycle. And that's really where my question comes from. Are we on track to get the work done that we need to get done this year with respect to our forecast and this year's allocation?
Well, it's a complex program, but the short answer is yes.
Okay, and I understand that.
Things come and go, you know,
Right, exactly.
sooner or later, depending upon
Right.
what circumstances we run into. But everything, and I can get into a little bit in Robbie's report, that we anticipated we do, we're proceeding along.
Right.
So, we've even started early this year. We held our, I'll talk about it, but we held our public session for Saybrook Manor in Indian Town already, so that we can get an earlier start next year to make sure that construction gets completed. This year, we will have construction that will be bid out but not completed in this year.
Okay.
But by the end of next year, it will be done. So we had started, we made that commitment, and we had to do a number of things to make this year happen and next year happen. And some of those things were process efficiencies that we couldn't implement this year.
Right.
Because we were just creating them, but will take effect next year.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And, Grisha, have
We have,
comment here. Do you want to say something?
no, depending on how the numbers come, by the time we get to the next meeting, I should be able to put something together so you can see where we are relative to the $15 million budget. You'll see, it'll be a lot easier to see on the construction side of it than on the construction management side. But at least you can get used to the process and how it works, and then we'll keep populating it as we go along. We did this for phase 1.
And you're getting the approvals in a timely fashion.
Yes. And the construction and JTR is way ahead of the game with his as-built, so I'm getting reports from CRAD way earlier than we got them before, so that's going very smoothly. We have 2 non-construction bills. We have CRAD for July, and we have SEAL. The CRAD bill is for $6,071.01. The SEAL bill is for the plans and the project manuals for Maple Avenue North 3 in the amount of $1,327.10. The total non-construction invoices are $7,398.11.
And may I get a motion?
I'll make a motion that we pay the invoices totaling $7,398.11.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
just to stipulate that they're for non-construction invoices.
Okay.
Non-construction, correct.
Anyone else? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Okay, and we have construction invoices from JPR LLC for Ingham Hill 1, Meadowwood 1, for 4 properties, for a total of $45,125. And for Meadowwood 2, for 3 properties, in the amount of $25,650, for total construction invoices of $70,775.
May I have a motion?
There's a motion on the following invoices for MM1, $25,650, and MM2 for $70,775, totaling $78,173.
No, George, start
Wrong
over.
line.
sweetie.
Start over again.
These are JTR, both JTR invoices. These are this is the
Oh, I'm
total.
sorry, for JTR, the total is $25,650,
And the other one,
and the other one is for $45,125,
and this is-
totaling $70,775. I stand corrected.
I'll
That
second
is the
that.
total construction cost for those.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have any comments or questions? Anyone?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
just a general question. 6 Summerfield, is that a feline community?
Six Summerfield is, it's additional leaching,
No,
Right.
no, no, he went
No,
over
Jill,
the
look at the
feline.
name. Muse.
if it
It's a
was.
joke.
I'm not familiar
Feline.
with Muse.
Oh, yes, I know,
Yeah.
it's probably the same person that has Southview Terrace, Southview Circle, C Lane 1, C Lane 2.
Right, but what's MEW?
Oh, Muse is
It's
a
a mule.
place where horses are kept or something, or?
It's
something.
very British.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's actually the name of the road is
Yes.
It's not a road, it's not a
Summerfield
street,
Muse.
it's a muse.
Okay.
Not a
Learn
typo.
something new every day.
Yeah. It was one of those properties that got remediated in transfer by the owner that picked it up. So that was a very good thing for us.
okay, any other comments or questions? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. The coordinator's not here, we have a
Yeah,
written report.
Robbie's on vacation. She did pass out or send out her report, which is pretty self-evident. The thing I would comment on is, it's been a very busy summer, continues to be, and I think that's reflected in the list of things that she's put here on a daily basis that she deals with. In addition to this, Raisha deals with this as well every day, and Melissa. It's a real team effort, and they do a lot to keep all of this moving along. I would point out in the Fuss and O'Neill report, the survey going on in Chalker Beach and Saybrook Manor. We have deep approval for the Maple Avenue North 3 contract. And the bid advertisement, they've worked on as well. Pre-bid meeting is this Thursday. So we have that coming up. As far as my report, on the community system initiative, you mentioned the report from Wright Pierce, and they do have a draft report that's now complete. So we'll be discussing that with Dee on Wednesday. And we put a lot of time and effort into preparing for that meeting. Besides what we'll be talking about on the community system side. We have to talk about program planning and addressing the stipulated judgment. So it's an important meeting with Dee. Conventional upgrades, we've had our public meeting with Saybrook Manor in Indian Town.
Before I move forward, if I could, please. I'd enjoy being able to see that report in its draft phase, and when it's ready for us to see. I realize you want to,
Okay.
there are certain approvals you need in advance before it's ready for
Yeah.
local, for consumption, but I would have preferred to see the report before we have it brought up to meeting.
The report itself is very long, basically because there's a lot of technical information included. I can give you a very brief kind of summary of where we are with it. The two properties that we mainly wanted to test and evaluate proved to have potential capacity to support a community system, especially with some degree of capacity. The exact capacity depends on a number of factors that we haven't resolved yet. So I think you have to take that conclusion sort of casually at this point, not because it isn't good, but because there's more work that needs to be done to determine an exact number of properties that might be accounted for. We have a preliminary number. It would certainly cover the number of properties that are in the advanced treatment category. We're looking at cost. Just to remind everybody, Deep really scaled that study back to just be a very quick look at those properties and determine rough hydraulic capacity to see if we wanted to go further. So we're interested in knowing more about it, moving on and getting the information we need, but it's going to take a little bit longer. So I'll be happy to share the report, but it's not going to really provide more than
I
that
understand,
at
right.
this point.
It's a preliminary, sure.
Yeah, it's a preliminary report. As mentioned, it's an important meeting with Deep because we have to move cooperatively into the future. It's kind of another reevaluation post-grade program. And one of the key things about that study is that the number of properties that we may be able to put into a community system determines what's left and the timing of what we need with regard to stipulated judgment. It's not just the number of properties, but we're moving into areas that are more difficult to remediate. So they are going to take longer.
Sure.
And we've kind of got our feet wet a little bit with some of the work we've done this year to get a feel for that, where we've had some more strip and fills and had to do some pump systems. And what's coming up in Maple Avenue North is going to give us even more experience in that regard. So
It's encouraging that we have some candidates and some potential capacity, I'll call it.
yeah, no, it's
That's
significant, but again, there are a number of issues to work out before we can say we have that done.
If I can just follow
Sure.
up on what Peter was saying, I would agree that I think the board should get the draft document before it comes to the board for discussion. That way, we're prepared. I don't know who's gonna come before the board, if it's just gonna be you, or whether we're gonna have representatives from Wright Pierce. But rather than just, give us the document at that meeting, and, you
Yeah.
can't really expect us to really be familiar with it, make any comments on it,
Yeah,
if we don't see it in advance.
that's very reasonable. I would imagine what we could do is send it to you in advance of the next meeting, and probably the next meeting we'll have this meeting done, and we'll have a chance to, have a discussion with Deep so we can report on that. And have Wright Pierce here to give you a report as well.
Thank you.
Good.
I just want to comment. I agree that we need to definitely see that report before we're expected to vote on it, and some time before we're expected to vote on it. So the timing for the next meeting, if we can do that, that would be great.
Okay. I mean, I don't know what the vote is, but we're,
It'd be a comment.
it's just, it's a report. It's a.
Okay, it's a report.
It's a status on, you know, that particular initiative and where we are with that.
So that report leads to some sort of action down the road.
The report, yes,
Sure.
depending, and depending upon the discussion with Deep and what, demonstrating to them that we have the capability, now it raises the issue of, okay, what are the next steps and in what time frame? So.
Yeah, I think
those-
they come to
those are
us
the
for
things.
feedback. You know, we review that information and, you know, does it make sense? What we're pursuing, or doesn't it make sense? If it does, what do we want to do next? Kind of thing.
It's one step in the process.
Right.
And it'll be in lockstep with what DEEP requires also, because, you know, we need to do it consistent with the funding and other stipulations that we're working against or towards, or whatever you call, however you want to say it.
We don't want to
Right,
go off on a tangent.
that's right.
While we're talking about that, just to get back to your question, you know, the application for the funds didn't outline an exact program that we're
Right.
following, so it's not going to be,
Yeah.
you know, exact transfer of funds. We're spending it as we can justify with regard to moving the program forward. Meadowwood and Ingham Hill are essentially done. We have some emergencies to wrap up at the end. Have we got all the emergencies, Gracia? Are they all done?
We have 2 outstanding right
Yeah.
now.
They'll be done shortly. Jeff is poised to start Maple Avenue North 1 mid-September, which is just about now. So within a few days, we'll be moving on to Maple Avenue North. Maple Avenue North 2 is a bid for about 25 properties, and that's still at deep for approval. Maple Avenue North 3 is our large contract, which we put together, I think it's 73, 75 homes. It has been approved, and as mentioned, the pre-bid meeting is Thursday morning at 10 o'clock. So we're interested in seeing, we've advertised it, we'll see what the response is to that, and hopefully we can get that going as soon as possible.
Now, those contractors need to meet a certain different criteria, correct?
They do.
So they'll have different bidders. Do we necessarily know whether
Well,
somebody like JTR will be able to bid?
They can, it's possible they can bid it, they may be able to put the bond requirements together, I don't know. It's kind of strange, because the bond requirement was really set up for a different purpose. You know, if you were dealing with a project that was a lot more money, and it's one building, it's much more critical in how things go. But this is just ganging 75 homes together, so individually, it's a very small amount of money that's at risk here, and it's being done over a long period of time. But because that's the state requirement, you have to go by that. You know, there's no, if we had the time, we'd go to the state and say, would you change this for this particular program, because it's unique. But we're unique, and we have to respond to all the things we've done into
Right,
that.
so we may have some interest from other contractors who haven't,
Hopefully,
you know,
yeah.
stepped up before.
It's, I mean, it's a big job, and it's gonna take a lot of effort to get that done in the time frames, which we have adjusted. Not only that one, but even the other contracts, to be realistic in terms of getting these in, and we may run into some weather issues in the winter as well, which could adjust the time frame on it. But all the conventional upgrades are pretty well, you know, planned, going according to our effort, and we'll get done through the end of this year. That was when we first met with Deep after phase 1 to kind of take a reevaluation, that was the agreement we made with them. was for this year and next year to do these conventional. So we're doing that. That was an obligation we knew we had to meet. From now on, we'll say after this meeting, but because the timeframes are going to change, hopefully in the stipulated judgment, and we'll have to see what they would like to have us accomplish in the time against what we think is realistic.
So what would be the next area? Indian Hill? For after this group?
We'll probably continue with more in Indian Town and Maple Avenue North. Could be Charter Beach as well. I don't know. It's going to depend, and somewhat on what the plans are for the community system. It's even possible we may look at Cornfield Point and do some work in that area. We have all the preliminary work done now for these areas, so we can, we're looking for a little bit more flexibility in terms of where we go next.
Cornfield Point being mostly conventional?
Well, it can be conventional, but it's tough. They're very, very, some of those lots are very small, and they're totally built on. It's gonna be very tough to, they may have distance to groundwater, but not necessarily setbacks, or room on their property for what they have, so. I'm anticipating it will be difficult.
The closer to the beach, the tighter the lot,
In general.
from my observation.
I met with Jim Monopoly on enforcement. All of our contracts and procedures are now in place, and so we have a process. And we had 6 cases that we wanted to start working on that were from phase 1. And 2 of those were properties that were in transition. There really wasn't an obvious owner to go to because of probate or people dying and transfer property. So at the very least, we're at least including them, and the first step in the process is to attach an upgrade notice to the land record. So we wanted to do it in those cases as well, so that whoever eventually ends up with the properties knows that they have an obligation for upgrading. The other 4 were really, amazingly enough, all different and required kind of a different approach. In one case, the person had to be re-noticed, and we did that through the sheriff's office to make sure that that happened. And following the amount of time, if there's no response, we will go to the next step. So we are working on those. With regard to resident issues, almost all of the issues from Fenwood from last year have been resolved in terms of restorations that needed to get followed up. There's one more property that there's a restoration that has to get done, as far as I know. We had a very good response to our public meeting for Indian Town and Saybrook Manor. It was nice to get some positive comments, and I think that was reflected in the response, because we got a fairly rapid and much more complete response in terms of decisions for those areas. So it enabled us to start the process moving forward with our soil testing.
How many properties does that represent?
Robbie, I think, had it in her notes. Should like, what was it? 70% of, oh, she's talking about the apps that were returned. Yeah, I don't know the exact number. We still have some. I think today was close to the last day to respond, but we have some that she hasn't seen yet. 15 minutes. So there's even more than she has put in here, but yeah, most people are still opting into the program, taking advantage of it. There were a number of people that came in and wanted more information, wanted more understanding of the program before they made a decision, so either the office staff or myself got it. As far as I know, all of those people opted in. I have been communicating with the beach associations. I'll pass around an email I got back from Nikki Shalemi. She's the president of Bel Air Manor. And I appreciated her email. After I talked with her, I met with the group. She wasn't there that day, but talked with them. Tom Armstrong called me too, and I talked with him. So I keep in touch with, the beach associations. Give them an update if I don't show up at the meeting.
Thank you.
So that's pretty much it, unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions?
I have two. First off, when on the surveys, only because I'm in the Chalker Beach area, are they doing flyovers again?
No.
Okay, because one day there was a plane going around, up and down, back and forth, and I'm like, what the?
No, not
Okay,
us.
okay, just checking.
That's Geico.
No, not that one. It might be for one of my neighbors too, that's here and
I
there.
concur.
Or Big Y. The other thing, you have survey in Chalker Beach and Saybrook Manor, and then it becomes, in the next, it's Indian Town and Saybrook Manor. Is there a reason why there's the three of those and two get combined and one gets left off? It's just, I'm confused.
You looking at the Fuss O'Neill report?
Yeah, it's, they're surveying in Chalker Beach and Saybrook Manor, and then the next planning is Indian Town and Saybrook Manor.
We don't have approval for Chalker Beach yet.
Oh, okay. The last question, the surveyors that are doing it, are they the town surveyors, or is it an outside source?
Subcontract.
Subcontract, okay. Just so when I look out and I see people,
When they're supposed to have name tags and the whole 9 yards.
okay. That's all.
I'd like to make a comment. I think the staff has done a nice job at community outreach, I'll call it, to hold hands and make our community comfortable and familiar with the work we're doing. I think it's a very vital step and part of our process that needs to, we can't underdo that in my mind. And I think you guys are doing a fine job, so I think that's worth noting.
Thank you, appreciate that. Well, we put a lot of effort into revisiting our information that was presented at the public session. We went through all the slides, we eliminated some things. Based on the experience we had, we kind of focused on some things that we thought were more important, because the meetings go on for a long time, and everyone's attention span, starts to drift if you don't get to the key things that you're trying to do there. So we made an attempt to shorten it, to get those things out there, and I made a few points in the beginning to try to focus them on what was the key thing, and I think that all of that got reflected in the response, so it was nice to hear that.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much, Steve. Do we have any outstanding old business? Or new business? We'll open the floor to any public comment.
No comment. I'm just doing this as a courtesy for the citizens of the town, that's all at this point.
Thank you. All right, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Make a motion, we adjourn our meeting at 8:02 p.m.
I second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So is that last thing?